Liquid. Who knows the last one? A gas. Yes. So fuels are solids, liquids, and gases. Now, did you know that everything that burns is a gas? Did you know if that cabinet catches fire, it's a gas? It's not solid, even though you will swear that that is solid material burning, it's not. So solid materials decay. As they heat up, they start to break down and decay, and they gasify. And even though it's on a microscopic level, just above the surface of the solid material, there's a gas being emitted, and that gas is volatile and ignites. And as you continue to burn this fuel and heat this fuel up, continues to decay, creating the vapor, and the vapor burns. Well, we all know liquids, they evaporate, right? You see vapors coming off of flammable liquids, and you know those vapors ignite. And gases, well, that's everything burns in a gas state, so obviously gas fuels are very susceptible. Oxygen. Where do we get most of our oxygen for a fire? Anybody know?
From the air.
Oh my gosh, you are so smart. You should give this class. You want to do it? Oh, okay, I'll keep going. You are so smart. Yes, from the air. So oxygen is a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas, and it's the third most abundant element on the earth. It's readily available. It's highly reactive. We kind of talked a little bit about the fact that fire is a reaction with oxygen. It combines with fuels and heat to create a fire or combustion, but it may also be found in other chemical oxidizers. Any gardeners in here? What's in a common ingredient of fertilizers? Anybody know? Nitrates? Nitrates. There are all sorts of oxidizers in other chemicals that we use daily that if they are subjected to a fire, they produce the oxygen through the chemical reaction without, even if they were in a closed box with no source of air whatsoever, the chemical breakdown itself provides the oxygen that you need for the fire. So this whole chain reaction thing, series of chemical reactions where the products of the reaction contribute to the reactants of another reaction with minimal to no outside influence. Now, I was driving over here today thinking of one of my favorite things I watched on television and one of my favorite things I see young students build, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's that thing like the mousetrap where you tip something over and the ball rolls down. And
Rube Goldberg machine, yeah.
Thank you very much. Is that not a chemical? A chain reaction event? Don't you just start one place and a series of events causes other events to happen? It's an ongoing chain reaction until something goes in there and stops it, if you've done it properly. Well, that's similar to a fire. So you have this chain reaction continues until you run out of fuel, run out of oxygen, heat energy is removed. That's one of my favorite. Do you know how we remove heat energy as firefighters? That's the fun stuff. Putting the wet stuff on the red stuff, as we say. So, do any one of these things, any cooks in here ever have a fire on their stovetop? Or you've probably seen on what to do if you do have a fire in your stovetop. You cover a lid over the pot, right? And it snuffs it out, removes the oxygen, breaks the chain reaction, and the fire goes out. Move the pot off of the stove, away from the heat source, and the heat energy is going to be removed. Obviously, if you get rid of the contents of what's in the pot, you're removing the fuel that's burning, and the chain reaction stops. So that's the science of fire. We have heat, we have a fuel, we have the oxygen, and we have a chain reaction. And so this applies to pretty much all fires that we look at, whether we're investigating a car fire, a house fire, or even a wildland fire. What were the first fuel ignited? We always literally look for what was the very first thing ignited, down to a microscopic level. What was the credible ignition source? And again, I've showed you a couple different ignition sources, a butane lighter and a butane torch. I've got to find an ignition source that could light that first fuel on fire. It has to be capable scientifically of happening, otherwise my theory of how the fire started is wrong. And then the acts that brought them together. Was it a human act? Was it an accident? Was it an act of God? Was this something like a lightning strike? Was it spontaneous heating from mulch or vegetation? So those are all things that we consider when we investigate fires. But again, I want to talk about